to Llama Mama Kayla's Yarn Tube. I'm Kayla. Thanks for clicking on this video and hanging out with me for a little bit. I just really wanted to just talk to you guys. We've had a lot going on and stress is coming at us strong. Yesterday morning, well, the past week, I've been doing art with the neighbor kids. That's my little buddy Zeke and his 3 of his siblings, the 4 of the youngest kids of that family. I've been doing art with them, and so I'm just kind of working around their schedule from school. They homeschool, and homeschool field trips and co-op and different appointments and things they have. And so yesterday they came at 9:30 in the morning. They had a field trip for the afternoon, and the mom had to take one of the older kids to a appointment yesterday morning at 10. So I told her just bring the kids at 9:30 and we would do our art, for a couple hours. So that's what we did, and we were busy working on our art, and I get a phone call that Big Daddy has been taken to the ER by ambulance. Y'all, my heart just sank. I mean, I'll tell you, details about what happened with that. I hope this road, our roads in Louisiana are bumpy, okay? And so you're probably just jiggling all over the place. And I'm sorry about that. Okay, so what happened with Big Daddy yesterday? I told y'all he's been under a lot of stress at work with deadlines, and yesterday was a major meeting. People from CARF certification came, and I don't know what CARF stands for. All I know is they have to have that certification in order to operate their business. It's a drug rehab business, and so they have to have all these certifications and different insurance certifications and things. Look, my niece just passed. Anyway, so yesterday they had people from the CARF coming to his work to sit down with him and to go over all the stuff to make sure they're meeting the requirements, and the nurses are doing the right documentations and notes, and the counselors are doing their documentations, and it's just it's a very detailed certification meeting. And so yesterday morning when he left, he's been working late every day this week trying to just make sure everything's done and that stuff like that. And so yesterday morning when he left for work, I asked him, I said, are you going to work late tonight? He said, I don't know. The last time they came, they stayed till after 9 o'clock at night, so I have no idea. So I was just like, okay, He went on to work. He seemed fine. I know he's probably stressed about all that, though. And then he texted me at 9:23 and said, I love you. And I texted him back at 9:27 and said, I love you too. I hope your day is going well. I'll be thinking about you. Well, one of his co-workers had went in there at 9:20 and spoke to him, and she left out, and then he texted me at 9:23. He stood up and texted me that, and that's the last thing he remembers. He passed out, fell out flat on his back, hit the back of his head on the concrete floor. She went back in his office at 10 o'clock, and she didn't see him in his chair, and she just kind of opened the door a little bit to see if he was in there, and she saw his feet. him and screaming his name, Jody. She's screaming Jody and shaking him, and she thought he was dead. A doctor had come out of the main building right behind her, and he heard her screaming, and he went to Jody's office, and he thought he was dead. He ran and grabbed the defibrillator and hollered at the nursing staff and all. They all took off to his office and started working on him. They hooked him up to the defibrillator, but it said do not shock, because he did have a pulse, praise God. And of course they had already, called for an ambulance, and they were just all in his office working on him, trying to get him to come to, and he finally squeezed somebody's hand, from what I understand. And the ambulance, they said it took the ambulance about 30 minutes to get there, and the ambulance took him to the ER. Well, I got the phone call, and I had, the kids, the 4 kids were there with me. So I called their mom and told her that they just found Jody laying in his floor of his office, and they, an ambulance come to get him and take him to the ER. And she said, well, I'll be on my way. I'll be there as soon as I can. And then I think she might have called back, or I called her back, I can't remember. But she said that her oldest teenage boy, who I think just turned 18, she said he's at home, so they can walk home. So they did, and she did offer to take me to the hospital, because I was, obviously upset and crying, and I didn't know, what kind of state Jody was in, what was happening, and I didn't know all those details at that time. I didn't learn all that until late last night, but she offered to take me to the hospital, which this hospital is about not quite an hour away. It's in the town that Jody works in, and I didn't want her to have to take me all the way over there, and then me trying to figure out, getting back home. And I don't know. I just felt like I needed to go on in my car and go. And then she did say that the oldest teenage boy, he could go with me and, just hang out at the hospital. But anyway, her kids cleaned up real quick their artwork, painting stuff, and washed their paintbrushes out while I was getting dressed. And then they went ahead and walked home, which is not that far. They walk back and forth to my house all the time and ride bikes and stuff, but they walked home, and I got in the car and took off in the other direction to the town that Big Daddy works in. And my boys also left their jobs and took off to that town also. Dakota got there first, so I was on the phone with Dakota as I was getting near. Actually, I was on the phone with my friend Angela so I could stay calm all the way there, because I was just trying to, stay focused and be able to drive and not, be a mess. On the inside, I was a mess. And then as I was getting there, I hung up with her and called Dakota, and Elijah wasn't there yet. But anyway, when I got to the hospital, Dakota had just got to go back to the back where the room that they had him in, and I guess they had already done CT scans and stuff. I know this video is going to be bouncing all around like that. I'm so sorry. But, so, actually the, CEO of the place where Jody works, she was there in the waiting room when I went in, and so we talked for a minute. She was telling me a little bit about what happened, but she didn't tell me like a lot of details. And then Dakota came out, and Dakota said, you know, he looks bad. He really looks bad, and he's really just confused, and he's real pale and such, you know. So anyway, then I go back to see him. I go in there to see him. Oh, well, Dakota come out because they were going to put a catheter in. That might be TMI. They were going to put a catheter in, but they never could get it in. They tried twice. So I waited and asked the lady, you know, was it okay if I go back there now? So I went back, and when I walked in that room, oh my gosh, I held it together though. I held it together. But when he turned and saw me, he just busted out crying, which made me cry. And I was asking, I said, what happened? He said, I don't know. He said, I remember texting you. So he never did get my text back. He didn't get my response. And I could see that he never did read my reply. So anyway, then he asked me, he said, what are you doing here? Where's the kids? And he wasn't talking about our kids. He was talking about the neighbor kids, which I just love. I think that's just great that he was concerned about them, what happened to them, because he knew we were doing art. And I love that man. I just love that man. But, they never did really find, they did CAT scans and stuff, and they didn't find anything really to say what happened to him. But we'll tell you this. Okay, so the place he works at is a drug rehab. They often take patients to this hospital. Okay, they did not realize that he worked at this place. They thought he was a patient detoxing off of drugs. So they kept asking him, what did he take? What's he been taking? What was he in for treatment for? And all this stuff. And they didn't realize, like, nobody told them what happened. Like, the ambulance people didn't tell them, like, how he was found and what was going on. The RN that works at his place where he works, she followed the ambulance to the hospital so she could talk to them and tell them, you know, what happened and how they found him and all this stuff. But nobody ever talked to her. So she told Dakota, she said, I guess I'm just going to go back to work, since, you know, she waited and waited and waited. Nobody ever talked to her. And I don't know. It was really just a weird day, time. I don't know. They ended up discharging him because they thought he was detoxing off of drugs. I don't know. So he called me on his cell phone. His cell phone was in his pocket. He called me and said, come help me. And so I went back there to help him, and they wouldn't let me go back. They said, oh, we're discharging him. We're bringing him up. And I'm like, you're discharging him? And she's like, yeah, we're bringing him out. Go get your vehicle. We're bringing him out right now. And I'm just like, what? I mean, I had just been back there with him. The man clearly, he could not even get up to potty to use the bathroom because he was so dizzy and disoriented. They were going to put a catheter in him. And then they said, we're going to do another CT scan. So they said he'd be gone about 20 minutes. So I went out to the waiting room where our kids were, our boys were. And next thing I know, they're discharging him. And that just didn't make any sense to me. So anyway, she had him in a wheelchair and brought him out. And our boys, Dakota and Elijah, was getting him out of the wheelchair and getting him in the car. And I mean, I could tell clearly he does not need to be going home. Like, what am I going to do with him at home, you know? So we all talked for a minute. They got him in the car, and he was just like, I don't know. His head was throbbing, hurting, and he hit the back of his head on that concrete floor, and it was just like a big red area on the back of his head, and it was hurting. His neck was hurting, his back was hurting. And so me and the boys talked for a minute. Elijah was going on to our house. I was going to Sonic to get Big Daddy something to drink. Dakota was going to run to his work to get his glasses and stuff like that he needed. And so when he got to his work, he told them, you know, they discharged him. And he told them, like, what kind of state he was in. And they were like, no, don't take him home. Take him to this other hospital in the town that we live in, a bigger hospital. Because the hospital that they took him to by ambulance, which was the closest one to his work, is a little rinky-dink backwards hospital. When you go in that hospital, it's like stepping back in time. They don't have any up-to-date equipment. When you walk in the room, it's like stuff you would have saw in a hospital room 10, 15 years ago. It's nothing updated, no new stuff in there. It's a little small hospital that is not up to date. And so Dakota calls me, and he's saying, you know, they're all saying take him to this other hospital, don't take him home. And Big Daddy says, and take me home. I mean, he had puke all over him, all in his hair, his beard, his ears, all on his shirt. And they had cut his shirt off of him. And so he was said, you know, just take me home. And so we go to the house, and the boys, you know, come there, and they are able to get him in the house. He stumbled to the restroom to use it, and then stumbled to the den and sat down in the den. And he said he was hungry. So we decided that me and Elijah would run to Captain D's, which is a little fast food seafood place, and get him some fish and get everybody something to eat, because they hadn't ate either and everybody was hungry. So Elijah and I ran up to go pick up some food. Dakota stayed there with him, and he just sat there on the couch watching TV, kind of dozing in and out. And Dakota just sat back there and watched him. Okay, then we got back with the food. He needed to get up to go to the bathroom, and then he was going to come to the table to eat. or I guess he was coming to the table to eat. They tried to get him up 3 times, and he fell over 3 times. He could not stand up by himself. And so while Elijah and I was going to get food, the CEO of his place of employment, she called me 3 times, and she was so upset that they let him discharge him. She had her head nurse or in nurse to call up there and talk with the nurse and find out what happened. And that's when we found out that they thought he was detoxing off of drugs. And she was like, no. And she told them what happened, and they was like, oh, in that case, he needs to go to this other hospital and get checked to see if he had a stroke. And so, and then she was going to try to call the ambulance people to find out why they didn't convey, you know, all this information. Why didn't they tell them all that? Because it's just like really crazy that, and the people at the hospital, they never talked to us. They didn't talk to me or Dakota and ask any questions or anything. I don't know, it's just really, really weird. Like, wow. But anyway, whenever they were getting him up to come to the dining table to eat, because I told them, I said, I want y'all to get him up, instead of taking the food in there to the den for him, I said he needs to get up and let's see how he is, see if he can walk, because they were going to go home, and I'm there with him by myself. I would not be able to hold him up. You know what I'm saying? And if he fell, I don't know how I would get him up and all that. So we needed to like assess the situation and see how he was. And I did tell him that this lady from his work had called me 3 times saying he needed to go to the hospital, and that the doctor at where he works was saying he needed to go to the hospital. So anyway, he ate a little bit, and then we got him, the boys got him to the car, and we took him to the other hospital, and they run all kinds of tests on him and CT scans and all that, and they could not find a reason for what happened. But they did say he had a concussion, and they did give him a bunch of fluids because he was dehydrated, and they did a lot of different little tests, like checking his blood pressure with him laying down, sitting up, standing up, and all this. And after he got the fluids, he did feel a little better and was able to get up and stand up by himself and not fall over. So they, did discharge him late last night, and we got him home, got him situated and everything. And then the boys left because, they had to go home and tend to their animals and go to bed and get ready, so they could go to work today. And I felt like, I'll be okay with him after all that. And I told him, last night, I said, if you get up in the night to go potty, make sure you wake me up so I can get up and go with you in case you fall. I said, if you fall, I don't know how I'm going to get you up. And he said, just throw a blanket over me. But anyway, that is our day yesterday. That's what's going on. I just came to Target right now to get his prescriptions from the hospital. They gave him some muscle relaxers and pain pills, pain medication. I don't know what they gave him. I hadn't even really looked. Guess I better get all that together before I actually walk in. And so anyway, that's where we're at. That's what happened. That's what we're dealing with. Hopefully he can follow up with his doctor next week. So yeah, I don't know. I've just been so worried about him. Like, I don't know what I would do if he did fall. But anyway, I've got him situated at home right now. Made sure he hit everything. He'd already went to the restroom, so he didn't have to get up the whole time that I'm going to come pick up these prescriptions. But I do want to ask you guys to pray for him, continue to pray for him, and just keep him in your thoughts and prayers, and hopefully after he rests this weekend, he'll be, feel better next week, so he can go on back to work and stuff, whatever. I did tease him a little bit and said, "You do just about anything to get out of that CARF certification, won't you?" But anyway, guys, it's a lot. It was a lot. And I didn't even find out all the details of that until last night when we were at the ER, and I talked with his coworker that actually found him, and she was telling me, like, they all thought he was dead. Because his eyes were open, but he wasn't blinking. He did not look like he was breathing, and I guess they didn't really know that he had a pulse or anything until they hooked him up to that defibrillator. And it said that he had a pulse, do not shock. But she was just telling me how bad he looked, and how she was just shaking him and screaming his name. And I'm sure it was very traumatic for her to find Jody in that situation. And she and Jody are close. Like, he thinks a lot of her, and she thinks a lot of him. And just for her to find him in that situation, I'm sure was very traumatic for her. But I did tell her, thank you so much for going over at his office yesterday and finding him. And she said, that normally they don't go to Jody's office, and I knew that already. His office is kind of separate from everybody else's, and she said he just stays so busy, we don't go over there because we don't want to disturb him. And then she told the ladies, or the people who were there for the CARF inspection certification thing, she told them, y'all saved his life, because if y'all hadn't have been here, I wouldn't have went to his office. And I told him that, and he said, well, they probably caused it. They probably caused it and saved his life. But anyway, I love that man with all my heart. Please pray for him. Like I said, we don't know why this happened. We don't know why, what made him fall. He has been falling a lot here lately. He's had several falls. And we just don't know why. But anyway, I better go in here and get his prescription so I can get back home to him. And then the kids are going to come down after a while and finish up some of their art projects so they can enter them in the fair this weekend. So, and Big Daddy, he asked, is the kids going to come down and finish their art today? And I told him, if you don't care. He said, I don't care. Tell them to come down. So he don't care that the kids come. He's sitting in a den watching TV. So I'm going in here to get his prescriptions and get him some snacks. So I will see you all later. Remember, it's a beautiful day to crochet. I've got cups I've got to ship. Maybe I can get one of my boys to come out and help me get all that together and get it shipped. I don't know. We'll figure it out. If you've ordered a cup, it's coming. It's coming. It just put a little kink in the plans. All right, guys. Bye, friends.